Hey there. Now, first, before I start, I just want to say, excuse the mess behind me. I'm in the middle of redecorating this office space. Somebody told me I need something called an accent wall, and so that's my attempt at doing just that. Anyways, the question I'm going to answer today is a really good one. It says, I know there's a verse in the Old Testament that tells us not to get tattoos, but I've noticed a few Christian friends with tattoos. Is it wrong to get inked? Now, believe it or not, this question goes really, really deep. So first, this is the verse that this person is referring to. It's in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 28. Do not cut your bodies for the dead or put tattoo marks on yourself. I am the Lord. Now, I know some of you are raised in a church culture that says, if the Bible says it, then I just do it. And I would respond by saying, it's not that clear cut. So what are we supposed to do with verses like this? Now, the reason why this question goes really, really deep is because it touches on another question, which is, what do we do with all these weird commands that I find in the Old Testament? So today we're going to walk through two things that we all ought to know about what we should do with these verses. First, know what culture this command was given to. God's command was not given to people in a vacuum. It was given to a specific group of people that was dealing with specific issues. Now, in this specific command, it gives you a little clue. It says, do not cut your bodies for the dead. As it turns out, back then, there were a group of people who would cut themselves and put ink in their skins as an act of worship to their gods and goddesses. So this verse is actually about idolatry, not about getting tattoos for no reason at all. Apparently, there's a group of people who got tattoos as an act of worship to their gods and goddesses. And God says, no more of that, because I want you to be devoted to me only. So the first principle is this: make sure you know the culture in which this passage was given. Number two, keep in mind where you found this command. Did you find it in the Old Testament or did you find it in the New Testament? Here's a verse that might help you understand what I'm trying to say here. This is Hebrews chapter 8, verse 13. By calling this covenant new, he has made the first one obsolete. And what is obsolete and outdated will soon disappear. This is what the author of Hebrews is saying. He's saying that when Jesus came to this earth, he created a brand new covenant, which you and I are a part of. And what that did was he took all the stuff before that and called it obsolete. And that includes Leviticus chapter 19, verse 28. Now, the word obsolete here in the original language implies something that's worn out, something that you can't use anymore. It doesn't mean that it lost value. So think of like an old car that you have. Maybe it was the first car you got, and it has sentimental value to you. It still has its value to you, but it doesn't run anymore. It's obsolete. It's worn out. You can't use it anymore. What this passage is implying is that the Old Testament laws is of no more use. We're not bound to it anymore. Instead, we are now bound to the spirit of the law. Okay, but just to be clear, this doesn't mean that we should throw out the Old Testament. It still has value. So when I read the Old Testament, I read it because I want to extract truths like who is God? Like the character of God is scattered throughout the Old Testament. Who we are in relation to God. And of course, Israel history. That is so key to understanding the New Testament. But whatever we do with the Old Testament, do not use it as a law book. The only law that we as Christians, people of the New Covenant, are required to follow is Jesus' greatest command, which is to love others in the way that Christ has loved us. So when it comes to Leviticus 19:28, this is how we should look at it. First, this rule was given to a group of people on the other side of the globe several thousand years ago. So let's not read this passage and say, okay, I gotta go do that. So instead, we should ask questions like, what did this command mean to the people that received it back then? What can we learn from this rule? What principles can we extract from this law? What does this law teach us about how people used to live back then? Or my personal favorite, what does this law teach us about God's character? So, to answer the original question, it is not wrong to get a tattoo. God doesn't really care whether if you get a tattoo or not. What he is interested in is, why are you getting a tattoo and how does it affect the people around you? In other words, if you are young, make sure you talk to your parents about it first. And if you're old enough, you should have a conversation with God and ask him some key questions. Like, if you're going to put something permanent on your body, maybe you should consult him and what should this tattoo actually say? Or by getting this tattoo, is it somehow hurting the people that you love? Or is there a possibility that the thing you're going to put on your body might offend somebody down the line? Because everything I just mentioned right now falls under the umbrella of the one command that Christ has given us, which is to love others in the way that he has loved us. So I'm not advocating for or against tattoos. That's up to you and the Lord. So okay, so this is Christian pastor author guy that I follow, and he has a tattoo on his arm, and that tattoo says Leviticus 19:28. You see, now that is ironic and an awesome inside joke, don't you think?